Look at here, Jose. We were just talking about the Super Bowl. You've got on the hat.
Yeah, he's a real fan. He owns like.
How about those Chiefs?
How about those Chiefs?
My house is a fan. Yeah, we're big Kansas City.
We're all
Chiefs
Kansas City fans now. I will say we're newly. How long have you been a Kansas City fan?
2013.
Okay, so he's been committed.
So you're like a real fan. I would say that we have swiftly become fans.
Yeah. My wife and I, we watched the Super Bowl for the first time in our home in 12 years of marriage this past weekend because of Taylor Swift. Like we've gone to parties before, but like we've never literally like tuned in at our house in our entire history of marriage to watch this game until Taylor Swift was involved. So,
well, let me ask you, as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, does the Taylor Swift stuff kind of drive you crazy, or it's like get on board?
The more fans, the merrier.
So it kind of bothered me after looking at her on the ESPN and Sports Center post after a while. So it's like taking attention of the. Yeah. I hope it's real love, right?
Yeah.
But I promise not to wear the hat whenever I meet the marketing chief for the Texans, because we're trying to have CJ Stroud at campus. To talk to the kids about faith.
Yes.
So
that's cool.
I promise not to wear the hat.
Don't wear the hat. You can't wear the hat.
Yeah, no hard feelings. Honestly, there's not a lot of diehard Houston Texans fans either. You would find more Oilers fans, I think, than Texans fans at this point.
I think if Texans could make it all the way one time, you would find them. They would be ready. I think we're ready.
They did pretty good this year.
They did really well. I think we're beginning something pretty exciting, and I think you'll find more.
Jennifer, should we start a sports show? Do you think you and I are qualified for that?
Everyone I run into is like, you guys have got to do a sports show. You seem so wildly knowledgeable about Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, do we want to go ahead and get started? Because Jose is a busy man.
We should go ahead and get our show started.
Hello, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network. Hosted by Jennifer Dennis and produced by me, Justin Kello. We're a podcast that was supposed to be focused on parenting, but we've kind of lost the plot along the way. Honestly, we don't know what this podcast is about, but we talk to incredible people who love Jesus, and our hope is to provide encouragement and fun whenever possible. If our lack of clear direction bothers you, we apologize, but no one is making you listen to this podcast, unless you're married to Jennifer. Andy, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Almost Amazing podcast. We're excited to have you here today. I have sped up my voice, so it sounds like I have a lot more energy, even though I think I'm in a little bit of a post-lunch slump.
Okay.
Which it takes me a little while to get over this. I should just grab coffee on my way up. But this is what I want to say.
I'm looking at a giant Diet Coke. I don't understand.
I think coffee has more
it's an empty
caffeine than that. But I cannot believe that we are already on February 15th. I'm not kidding you. It took us 3 years to get to January 15th, and we are already halfway through February, and it's a leap year. It's a leap year.
Do you think the anticipation of the brevity of February makes it go faster?
No, it is magic. It is some kind of a spin on the way the earth rotates that they don't want to explain to us.
Yeah.
So they're just like, sneak it into January. They'll never notice that January is 2 months long.
Yeah.
But then here's the deal. Every year, the only thing I realize about leap year is that everybody who has a birthday on leap year tells you how old they are divided by 4.
Yeah. I wonder when
it's the whole thing.
When do they celebrate their birthday on years that are not?
The 28th.
Yeah.
Or the 1st.
Here's my question. When your age matters, let's say when you turn 18 or 21, 18, you can buy different things or you can go to different things. If you are turning 18 on February 29th, but there is no February 29th, can you do that thing you're allowed to do on the 28th, or do you have to wait till March 1st?
I'm sure they let them do that.
I'm sure just for the funness of it, they're like, okay, fine, you can.
Yeah. No, I'm so sorry. It's not actually your birthday.
You can't buy this lottery ticket. You're not 18.
I think it de facto heads to February 28th. Okay. But for another thing, as a child, leap year to me was huge. It was like a big deal to be in February.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll do something at school about it. I feel like they may make a big deal about it.
Like leap year. Yeah. It's leap day. Yeah. Don't you remember growing up? And
I don't remember being
leap
a big deal.
Day was a big deal. It was leap day. And I, it's funny in my head. I don't know what we did that was special about leap year.
I'm telling you, this year I'm wearing blue and yellow like we talked about from 30 Rock. That's going to be my tradition is we're blue and yellow.
It's going to be your plan.
Yeah.
So so it's crazy to me. We're 2 weeks away from March and I could not be happier.
You are saying that so confidently. The people listening to this may already be in March.
Okay, that's true. Good
but
point.
That's fine.
We are already in March. And that is crazy to me. That's crazy.
I love March. I'm a big fan of March.
Oh, if you want to convince someone to move to Houston, bring them in March.
Like I just saw that like the weather was like, hey, we're about to go through our last little cold snap and it might be spring from here on out till summer. I'm like, yes. Like I'm so like, listen, I do believe in climate change and I think there are some serious things happening. But the fact that our winters are so mild, I'm like, yes, like we made it through without a terrifying freeze. We made it through without like just chaos. Like I'm so like one more like cold weekend and apparently we are like home free into spring. And yes, like spring in Houston is great. It is to me, I say this a lot. If you can survive the worst 4 months of heat of your entire life, Houston is really awesome for 8 months.
Okay,
like
so let me say,
you got patio dining 8 months of the year.
This past summer was awful for heat. It was
my skin
awful.
hurt walking outside.
We lost the air conditioner in our house for a whole week.
Yeah,
that was
tough. I do remember that.
It was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we're looking at a more mild summer.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't
think that's how it's trending.
I like to talk to the people that have the almanac. You know,
Yeah.
they pull out the almanac. They give you a little good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say, I like that it's kind of speeding up. We're starting to get into the events of the year that I love so much. It's the Easter egg hunt. It's VBS. It's camps.
Yeah.
I love this time of year.
Yeah. It's great.
So I'm in such a good mood. I've got to move out of the sweaters here pretty soon.
Yeah.
You'll go back to your walking shorts.
Yeah. I got a question for you. What is a compliment that you have received that you still think about sometimes?
Okay. So
I love how fast you have an answer.
So here's the deal. I do like, you're like the most beautiful person I've ever met compliments.
Mhm.
Those are every day.
Yeah.
You're funny. You're so funny.
Yeah.
Every day. I think when I get to teach, like I do speaking sometimes with women, and if they come up to me and I'm able to give them some truth, like from the scripture or from what God's teaching me, if I'm able to give them truth and they talk about how they apply that to their life and they thank me for that.
Yeah.
That's all. That's like,
wow.
that is like, you know,
even more than Great Hair Day.
Even more than Great Hair Day. It really means a lot when God has used me in someone else's life and they come and tell me. In children's ministry, if they come up and quote something I've said, like Miss Jennifer said this and this, and we were talking about that, that means so much to me because it helps just to encourage me that God is using me.
Yeah.
So yes, those are my favorite.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I can resonate with that. Someone the other day was.
It's got to be something about meeting people with your shirt off.
Yeah. No, not the fool. No, that's not. But I was the other day. I was in a lobby and I was talking to one of my supervisors, and someone was talking to me, but also him, and it was like, "Hey, this guy preached a sermon a few years ago for a Super Bowl that I still think about," and I was like.
What?
This is really, it's the same type of thing. It's like, wow, God said something through you that sticks with somebody. But I asked that question because the other day I realized that maybe 4 or 5 times a week, my brain goes back to a specific compliment. And I bring it up because on TikTok, I saw a video that said like women in general, you just can't remember. I don't know if you just forget compliments or they don't stick with you as well. You think more of like the things maybe you messed up or the ways you kind of failed. And men are just like, if you give them one compliment, they believe that that's their identity. They're like, oh yeah, no, I'm great at this. Like someone told me one time that I'm really good at parallel parking.
That is not how women
that's what I'm
roll.
saying. I think a lot of men are that way and they just like latch on it because I think 3 or 4 times a week I had a haircut in Virginia 10 years ago. And the person said, wow, you have movie star hair. It falls in the exact way it should. And I'm like, I'm carrying this to my grave. This is the best thing that you've ever said to me.
That's the only compliment I'll ever
literally anytime I'm like trying to fix my hair in the mirror, I'm like, oh, it looks great. I have movie star hair. That's what that person said to me one time 10 years ago. That is now my whole
goodness.
like internal monologue.
What an incredible skill to hold on to a compliment at that level.
I wish I could find that hairstylist and say, thank you for changing my life.
Thank you for that level of confidence with my hair.
But yes, being used by God to encourage and teach others is also great.
Yes. Also the God bit.
Yeah.
That's a big deal too.
But no, spring is coming. We're excited about that. Do you have spring break plans?
I think that Andy and Olivia and I will all be in 3 different places for spring break, which is sad. It's our last spring break.
It is not your last spring break.
It's it's last spring break in high school. And so she'll be going to church on a trip. Andy's going with the Rice BSM.
He does that every year though, right?
He does.
Pretty standard.
He's been to Mexico. He does all different places. He's been to Alaska.
Right.
He's been to down the Amazon. Wow. He does all different kinds of things. This year he's doing beach reach. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am familiar. I never went. I was involved in the BSM, but I wasn't like a BSM guy. And you had to be like a BSM guy to go to beach reach.
I think that beach reach to me it sounds intimidating and exhausting, but they love this experience, and they're in the beach, and all of these kids are making ridiculously poor choices. And in that weakness, at some point, often it hits them in the middle of the night. This is all futile. This is all useless. This is all pointless.
Yeah.
And what they do is they offer free rides to these kids.
And pancakes.
Fill your stomach, give you a ride somewhere safe so that nobody takes advantage of them, so nothing happens. And in the van, you get in the van, and in those conversations, it's, hey man.
Yeah.
Have you thought about,
Yeah. I love the picture of all these like First Baptist Church, Kentucky church vans driving the bars and the clubs and the parties and picking up these drunks to get them home and share the gospel with them. I just love the juxtaposition of an army of church vans like going through the bar areas.
And they've named their vans.
Yeah.
And they've named all their vans.
Yeah.
And you're right.
It's funny, but it's
like the two worlds colliding.
It's really innovative way to reach college kids.
And the conversations they have with kids, the interactions that they have, it really is unbelievable. And what I think that those kids that are going on beach reach experience, they see the futility of it so significantly. And Andy will call and he's exhausted by the end of the week, because their shifts are like, you get 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. pancakes. That's late. And so he's kind of exhausted, but he also is just so broken for the kids who are leading these lives with, without meaning, without Christ, without, the knowledge of who Christ is in their life. So to be part of that it's really powerful for a group who works on this together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's really excited. He invited me this year, but I'm going to go see my family.
It's fair.
I know.
I mean, it's fair because his summer is far more chill than your summer.
It's true.
So you've kind of got opposite schedules of when you're busy.
I remember one year I did a kid camp, right? And Andy went on a mission trip, and I forget where he went, but we get back, and I'm telling you, when people fresh off mission trip, when they come back, they're so like connected to the work and where they've been. It's kind of hard to get back on the same page with them. And I remember he came back from mission trip. We've just had a camp with all these kids, and they've come to know Christ. We've had a lot of kids make decisions, and he's walked in this too. And we're in a JCPenney, and we're needing to get some little pants for Olivia. And I'm like, I need some khakis. She needs a little dress. And Andy goes, this is all useless. This is just such a waste. And I was like, what are you talking about? And we just got into this big argument in the middle of this store because his heart was like still so heavy over the trip.
Yeah.
And so now we're a lot more sensitive to that now. So when we come back, it's not like, why are you throwing that food away? And
yeah, I did that to Kristen before we got married. When we were engaged, she came and picked me and a student up from an international mission trip flight, and she had to drive like 4 hours to get us. It was crazy. And we had just gotten back from I Go Global trip to Paris, which sounds like a vacation, but it wasn't. But it was probably the most meaningful mission trip I'd ever been on. And as soon as she picked me up, I was just still so sad about not being on the trip. When I should have been like super excited to see my fiance. Oh, we're getting married in a month. I love you. I'm so excited to see you. But it was very much like, oh, that was such a great experience. I hate that I had to leave it. And so I mean, I didn't say in that many words, but yeah, and we were exhausted. But
sure, I've been there.
Yeah. So I can feel you on that for sure. But no, beach reach is great. Spring break, there's all sorts of options.
So we're gonna be all spread out.
Yeah.
And Andy's thinking I'm taking the dog with me. He's like, you can take Flynn. I'm like, no. I'm not taking Flynn.
Who takes care of the dog when you do?
It's gonna have to be somebody else. I can't take that dog by myself to Florida.
I think Flynn would love the beach.
100-pound crazy dog to Florida. They don't allow dogs on the beach. And he jumps up on my parents, bless them, and I can't do it.
When this dog is gone, are you gonna do you like having a dog? I've just never heard you speak positively of owning a dog.
I love this dog.
He's not listening. I don't think the dog listens.
I love this dog. I told told Olivia, I was like, listen, don't gift us dogs after this. Do not say, if they really need a dog, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like maybe a cat, like a friendly cat, but this dog business.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love this dog. I was working on a puzzle a couple of hours. I'm working on this puzzle. My dog is just sitting there by the puzzle and he just reaches over and takes a bite and eats it. Like eats a piece of the puzzle. And that just renders the whole thing useless.
No.
And he just chews it down like it's a potato chip.
That's unfortunate.
And
it doesn't even smell like food. It's not like enticing.
He just reaches in, like takes his tongue, picks one up, chews it like it's a potato chip and swallows it and looks it up. And Andy and me were both, I'm like, that's my puzzle. I'm not going to put together a puzzle with one piece missing. And Andy just laughed hysterically. And I had to dump the puzzle. I was so mad.
Okay.
Anyway, that's more than anybody wants to hear about.
You never speak positively about it. One more thing before we move on. I did finish Love on the Spectrum this season. It was incredible. It was great.
Have you've seen it in the past, right?
Yes. No. But I caught up with Tanner, just a gem. There's this part on his first date with this girl, and he says, "Can we pray for our meal?" And he says, "Thank you for food." And he said, "And dear God, please keep mommy safe wherever she is." And I'm like,
sweetest thing. I think about that every day. And God, keep mommy safe wherever she is or whatever she's doing.
Yes, so stinking.
And I love it when he's saying to the cameraman, are my eyebrows okay?
Yeah.
Are my eyebrows okay? And you know that people are trying to train him. Hey, if you could just relax those eyebrows.
Yeah. No.
And then he said, and then he looks at the cameraman and he knows all their names. He's like, he goes, do you believe in love at first sight? And he goes, remind me what that is again. Can you tell me what that is again? And he's like, it's when you see someone, He goes, you know what, Pete? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not an expert. It's so cute.
He has a lot of yes sir, yes ma'am.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you, Pete.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert at love.
Yeah,
it was adorable.
Yeah, that was a great season. I will say, he needs a more chatty girl though. His sweet little girlfriend that they had him dating a couple times. They had a great time, but he needs someone who's more talkative than that.
Well, good luck finding someone.
Someone's got to keep up with it. But incredible.
There were some. I will say this: if you're considering watching this is not super kid friendly in this season.
No, there's one person in particular that is a grown up who is not a Christian, and so she wants things out of a relationship that no.
And then another right. There are a couple. I think a couple in this season that were a little like
a couple of main characters.
Yeah, I would say that you would just warn that's not. Yeah, I would just give you the warning.
Okay.
But anyway, we can talk about it off the air.
We can make a podcast about this show. We could go episode by episode, starting with New Zealand. Like
this is going to be our side podcast.
Honestly,
our already almost amazing podcast. All right. Well, speaking of our podcast today, we do have a wonderful guest that I'm really excited about. And let's welcome Jose Pacheco.
Hooray!
Hey, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you for your time.
Jose, how are you here? Like, do you go to our church? Like, I've literally never met Jose, and here I am sitting by him in a
Justin,
podcast.
I picked Jose out to be on our show because you always jump in with how much you know someone and what you like about him, and I thought, he's never met Jose.
I've never met Jose. I like his hat and I like his name.
We've exchanged texts.
That's all I know. Yeah. So like, what do you go to WestU? Like, what's your connection to our congregation?
So I started coming to WestU last Maundy Thursday. So last year. So almost about a year now.
Yeah.
Yep. And it all started asking where were good churches to go to.
Did you come with a friend or?
No.
Oh, okay. So you just found us online?
No. Actually, no.
Yeah.
So I'm part of the Jones Christian Fellowship, which is our organization at school.
Okay.
And last year, I met a couple of guys from the organization, so I asked them what was a good place to start assisting and taking matters seriously.
Great. Yep. Well, welcome.
And they're talking about with you.
I love that.
Jose works, is friends with Andy, my husband, Andy Dennis.
Great.
And when we first met, we actually met at Meet the Pastor night. It's dinner with the pastors. Mm-hmm. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's a Sunday night when you get to come, you get to eat dinner with the pastors.
It's moving to brunch though.
Mm-hmm.
It is moving to a brunch, which I think will be wildly popular.
Yes, I'm pretty excited about it.
And Jose and his wife Jennifer came. And she is wonderful and lovely. And I got to sit with him at the table.
Beautiful.
And that's when I decided to have him on the podcast because Jose has begun a Bible study at Rice University.
Okay.
He's a master's student at Rice. So will you tell us a little bit about the Bible study you've started?
Yes, sure. So part of the commitments and part of the events and also activities that we wanted to initiate this second year, uh, after brainstorming and just understanding what would the students wanted to have, and also an activity that would be taken in a regular basis, we decided to start a Bible study. There was no Bible study on campus. From the Jones Business School, there's an organization for the graduate students. They have their own Bible study, but there was no for the business students. So that's how we started. So it was unstructured, and the first person I went to was to Andy Dennis and asked him how to help me out. First of all, what topics to talk about, how to structure it, and how to lead a Bible study. So I was afraid. I didn't know how to handle it. So we brought our professor, Brian Akins. He's our financial statement analysis professor. And he's also a pastor, a youth pastor. And so we asked him to invite him, and that's how we started. So every Wednesday at noon, for the last semester.
And you've had some good growth. You have a good. Can you tell us about how it's really, really grown?
Yeah, so it started with 5 members attending, and now it's 15, and it's been on a regular basis. It was centered on topics about faith and perseverance.
I love that. Well, tell me a little bit now, where did your faith begin? So like you're this grad program, you're so motivated to start a Bible study, but like, what's your journey been like to get to the point where you're so like, cause like Rice is not a Christian university. So like you're living in this secular space and like, I love Jesus so much. I want to talk about the Bible with people at school. How did you get to that point? Like, how did you get to become someone like that?
Sure. So I come from a Jesus-believing family, especially from my grandma. We were raised Catholics, but my grandma was a woman of faith and prayer. She would pray for everyone, and she would believe in the power of love and the power of forgiveness. When I met my wife, she was a Christian, and we decided to go one direction. So I joined I joined a church in Honduras. When my faith was tested during the last 2 years, I would say that the past 2 years of my life has been the most the years in which I've grown the most in the faith journey. And how was that? So coming to the States to get an MBA, especially for someone from Honduras, I don't know elsewhere, but from Honduras, we don't have access to capital markets. We don't have access to financial resources. So besides your savings, there's no other option. So I got a scholarship after praying. We were praying with my mom and my sister. We were going to this restaurant. This 2021 COVID, still in Honduras. People were not going to the restaurant, and we found someone wearing a hat of the Texans, and we just thought it was a signal to come over here. So we came here with the scholarship covering my tuition.
So you saw someone with a Texas hat on.
Yeah, actually, it was the Longhorns.
Oh,
yeah, it was the Longhorns.
Justin's,
The Longhorns.
Justin's
Sorry, when you
It was the Longhorns.
Yeah.
So we believe it was a sign from God. So at that moment, we got a scholarship covering only my tuition and a loan to cover only my first year. So I didn't have funds for my second year, and we took a leap of faith. We took a leap of faith. So once I was here, I started recruiting, and my recruiting path was not to recruit for Houston. So it was a second burden because I started recruiting outside Houston. So this meant going coffee chatting and going and traveling outside Houston, in this case for New York. And God got open the doors, and I did an internship in New York. And with those funds, I used them to cover my second year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I believe that after my summer internship, it was my responsibility to instill more faith and positivity to my students, to all those who don't believe there's more beyond the pessimistic news that you every day see, right?
I love that you feel that God has you here for a reason.
Yep.
You said, okay, God, you showed up. We prayed for the way to get this degree. We prayed for the next semester, the next year. And you're not thinking, great, now I can just go to school and you're like, no, how do I give back? And the Bible study is what you chose.
And this is what happened too.
Wow.
I said yes to the Jones Christian Fellowship. I said yes to volunteer for a conference that happens once a year in New York. It's called Believers in Business Conference, which we bring all the MBA Christian students from all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
We organize speakers. We have 4 different series. I said yes to that. But the next day, I went to announce. The next day that I joined the Jones Christian Fellowship, I went to announce. So every day I was battling in, why did I join this organization? Why am I leading this? If I'm not looking there, there's a way in the professional side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time that I wanted to get involved more, I was sensing there were some signals from the enemy as well, right? Some attacks from, and I just centered and focused in praying and how I could lead the students. And it's been a challenge. We are 5 on the boards. Couple of us more engaging than others, and a couple of them not strictly in the word evangelical Christians. So just sharing the love for God and sharing the love for Christ.
So what are some of the things that you've learned through this process? Like, I think we're all serving in our place, and to step out and create a Bible study like that, I think is really amazing. So if there are other people that are trying to think about a way to do this, what are some things that you've learned in your process?
Yeah. First, stand out of the box. Ask good questions, because you need the whole team engaged in your activities. So you need to ask questions and see if those goals are aligned with yours. So if the goals of the rest of the team and yours and the organizations are aligned, that can run smoothly. In terms of you're going to have a board that is engaged with the activities. So that's 1. 2, asking the members, what would it look like? So we heard that they wanted more social activities to know each other, more Bible study, but also they wanted to hear more about people engaged in the business community in Houston. So that meant to bring in speakers and also bring in other figures that could talk more about their faith journey, that serve more as figures. And number 3, I would say communication. Communicate what are the objectives of the Bible study, what would they like to get out of it, and get feedback, and definitely get someone who's prepared. So that was one of the reasons which I decided to organize it, but I decided not to lead it, because I recognize that one of my weaknesses was not exactly knowing too much about the Bible. Right? We needed someone who had more experience, who had made more studies about the Bible and could teach us more. So that's why we brought another person in this case.
So who is that person that's teaching?
So his name is Brian Akins, our professor.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's a question. So you've got a professor teaching his Bible study. Professors can do whatever they want. There's no rules or laws or like they can't be in a Christian, like it's just whatever.
Correct.
Okay, we don't have to like delete his name from this podcast or anything. Okay. I love that you are intuitive enough to know I need to ask these friends, these peers, what they want. Because a lot of times we go in and assume everybody wants what I want. Of course, like I'm just going to do what I want and then the people will come. But you notice like, okay, I've got to make sure that the people I'm trying to engage and reach have an opportunity to give feedback into what they actually need and want in this situation. So I love that.
I do too. I also, to be able to have a community of believers in your study, when you're in school, in your professional life, I think is really powerful for your walk. It also helps you to know how to lead in business in faith. And it takes away kind of the compartmentalization. It kind of helps you to see holistically your faith matching and fitting with your business. Now, you said that you're working on finance and business. What are you hoping to use with? What are you wanting to do?
A faith-driven investor. So this means investing in companies that have a theme in which they would like to help other people growing in their faith. So we received and the idea comes from last year, this conference that we went to, which was about God and wealth. So what does God wants us to do? And the Bible has more than 2,000 verses about creating wealth and how are you going to use that wealth, and also about tithing. And so we received that speaker, and that he talked about his experience about starting to tithe the first year. And ironically, that was his worst year economically. And he had a chat with his wife in which they talked about what expenses they could cut on. And they figured out that they were not going to cut on tithing. That they figured out that they had way more expenses. And he just shared that after that year, his business went up, right? And actually didn't know that in the Bible there's a couple of different types of tithe. Even it's bigger than 10%. It's larger than 10%. It's not, they were not tithing 10%. It's approximately like 23%. It's larger than we thought, right? So now our purpose beyond trying to motivate the student body, also to bring non-believers to learn more about Christianity, what Christians are, and also now they're in a business school, how does wealth and money and God go together?
Wow. I love that our church is in the middle of our Deep and Wide campaign, which is trying to encourage people not to just give more money, but to understand what generosity means, not only with your finances, but your time and your ability. And so we're going on this journey together. And for you to say, like, you've seen that in your own life, that God was speaking to you outside of this church about the same thing, about how to be generous and how to use wealth in a way that honors God. I love that our church is going down that path as well, to teach people like, hey, this is what you can do. And like you said earlier with your organization, think outside the box. Things like, there's different things you can do with your money that if you know how to handle money, if you know the insides and outs of stocks and investments and all that stuff, you can find really creative ways to impact the kingdom work God's doing in your church or in another organization you really care about, And so I love that God was speaking to you in that, because our church is going through that same journey of trying to figure out how can we be as generous as possible in a smart way. Things like tithing on things that you leave after you die and things like that you can do, that if you have a business background, you can help people do that even more, because money is complicated. It's not like it was back in Bible times where, money has gotten really complicated. To have guys like you that understand it and can equip Christians to be smart with it about how they can help God's work, I think is really cool.
I think a lot more people, I think you're right. Money is complicated. And with our current market and some of the just unrest and unsettlement, it feels a little tentative or a little weird lately. So to have believers, leading the charge and knowing where to put your money to further the kingdom, I think is really hopeful. So will you own that company? Will you be part of? Are there companies that are already doing this? Is it, will you join a group that's already doing this once you're finished?
Yes. So there's a big group of networking in LinkedIn called the Faith-Driven Investor Community. There's a guy from Forbes, which is running a newsletter right now. And the other is that we are organizing a retreat called Journey of Generosity this next March with 10 folks, which we get someone who comes and talk about the Bible, and it's a seminar in which we can learn more what are the goals for our life.
You mentioned early on that when you're looking to go on to get a master's degree, you didn't have the finances, so you don't come from a history of deep pockets, and you're not from a wealthy background, correct?
Yeah, correct. No.
So how do you think
Justin, like,
that has
right out here?
Well, he said he had to get help to pay for school. So here's my question though: how does that shape how you view money now? You know what I'm saying? For someone who can look back on how they've grown up with money, how does that impact how you view money and your relationship with it in regard to being generous?
I'm stingier. Well, so definitely the power of money to create happiness for others. With the money, you couldn't sponsor the missions outside the States. With the money, you couldn't help others raise and get the objectives. I'm here because for the generosity of donors, right? That believed in the power of education. Now it's my mission to help others less fortunate that I've been, either to come to the States, and not only to come to the States, because we have our own problems here in Houston. We have our own problems here in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to go all the way down there to do it. But I'm from there, and I'm one of my desires to give back to my community, but also here. So we're already started. I'm part also of an organization, of a ministry called Crew, which is Christian professionals, and one of those is we help Buckner Family Hope Center, which is in Alden, North Houston. So every month we have a soccer clinic in which we go and play soccer with the kids and also teach them about the Word of God.
I love the work of Buckner. That's really cool that you guys are partnered with them.
Yeah. Well, I asked that because, when you don't grow up with a great amount of finances, which I didn't. I went to college for free on a scholarship because we didn't have money. I think your relationship with money is so different than someone who did grow up with it. And it's just always encouraging for me to hear someone who says, I came from, a modest background and I am happy and eager to give my money to God's work, as opposed to I need to hold on to this and make sure that, just the open-handedness of so many people who the temptation would be is I grew up with modest means and now that I have it or I'm able to take care of myself, I'm going to hold on to it. Whereas you're saying, how can I give this back to God? I've been blessed. How can I be open-handed with this? Like, I just love that mindset.
I do too. And I think God blesses that. I think God blesses generosity. So I think it's such a healthy place to be. Well, my goodness, it's so good to visit with you, hear about your life, Jose, and how you ended up in Houston and your journey with Rice and Bible study. I think that's really incredible. Okay, so before we go, we have one question, which I think I've already asked before, but I think it's good to dig it up again. If you have what is your ideal drive-through order?
Okay, and we'll answer this first. Yeah,
any restaurant, any order, you're going out, you're going to lunch, you can pick any place, drive through. What is it and what are you ordering?
Yeah, I think for me, it's tough because there's two different answers. One is, the thing is, are my children with me? Because
children are not with you. It's
they drive every choice I make for
you're
food,
alone.
Which is
you're
frustrating. If I was just by myself, there's something about the In-N-Out out in Stafford that I love just because it's far enough away that it's special. Like Wendy's is right here. Chick-fil-A is right here. Like for me, like those are all really easily accessible. And if In-N-Out was just as accessible, I probably wouldn't care about it as much. But if I was just going through the drive-through on my own to get whatever I wanted within 30 minutes of my house, it would be In-N-Out, like an animal style burger, animal style fries, which is really like slop all this stuff on it. And it's like incredible. Because everything else is kind of like so close to me. That's like special. And so I would go,
right.
I would chase that down. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What about you?
For me, man, if I'm like you, we're always at Wendy's or we're always at Chick-fil-A. But for me, going to James Coney Island.
That's like your guilty pleasure.
And getting their baked tots that has cheddar cheese and onions and bacon. This stuff is good.
I've never eaten at James Coney Island.
What?
I'd never seen one until I came to Houston. I'd never seen one.
And really, I'm stuck with two. There's another one. Panda Express.
It's a great choice.
Have we already talked about this?
Technically, it's not a drive-through though.
Have we there are some drive-through Panda Expresses.
The one I'm thinking of.
But have we talked about my obsession right now with Panda Express?
No.
The orange chicken at Panda Express.
Classic. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's incredible. Why am I the last person to know about this? Like other people have been going all these years, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because I was only really familiar with the pepper beef or whatever, and maybe some honey.
The orange chicken is like it. Yeah, that's what they're.
Oh,
good.
wow! And I've just discovered it.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is I rarely get it because nobody wants to walk inside of a fast food.
Yeah, our closest ones are not drive-throughs, which is frustrating.
We're definitely not doing that. But I just want to say that now that has become probably my ideal. It's that orange chicken.
It's good. It's good. Me and Kristen like talk about it a lot because our kids don't like Chinese. They're like, oh, if our kids weren't here, we go. You know, anytime we're picking a restaurant, we're like, well, if we don't have the kids, we go to Panda Express or something. But like, we're always having to choose for that.
Yes.
So
okay, Jose, give it to us. What's your favorite drive-thru
fast
order?
food? Yep.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
If there was a feed from drive-thru, I think that would be my number one.
Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite thing there?
Brisket. Brisket tacos.
The what?
No, that's for the pit room, right? From
Chick-fil-A. Yeah, Chick-fil-A.
For Chick-fil-A, just a regular chicken sandwich.
Just chicken
I'm
sandwich.
like,
okay. Wow, they have brisket.
tacos.
Wow.
What Chick-fil-A are you going to?
Dude, but the brisket tacos at the Pit Room are incredible. I don't know how your brain got to Pit Room from
Pit
that
Room.
conversation, but now I'm thinking about Pit Room.
I love Pit Room.
Their brisket tacos
Man, they've
are
gotten
good.
way too popular. Their line
Yeah.
is so long.
You got to go like 11.
I know, right? Exactly.
You can't go right at lunchtime.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We totally appreciate it. And we thank you for stopping in and visiting with us. So
yeah, if you joined the show, we'd love for you to share it. Rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, please like it. It's free. It's free to do that. You can always email us at podcast@cityrise.org if you have people that you think we should talk to.
all right. Thank you. Thank you, Jose.
Right,
thank you,
guys.
Justin. And thank you guys for joining us. We hope you've had an almost amazing time on the Almost Amazing podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Almost Amazing podcast from the City Rise Network based in Houston, Texas. City Rise is a partnership of church campuses, nonprofits, and missionaries devoted to lifting our city and the world by generously giving the gospel of Jesus Christ. For more information or to find a church campus close to you in the Houston area, visit cityrise.org.